Hello everyone. As requested in this video, I'll be re-reviewing the Gladius as it stands in 2.5.0 Juliet on the PTU. I know I just did one of these in 2.4.1, but because the Gladius has changed so much in 2.5, I thought it was worth making an update. I'm not going to go through everything I covered in that previous review, which I linked in the description, but instead I'll focus on what has changed and what it means for the Gladius in the big picture. The biggest change to the Gladius comes in the form of maneuverability adjustments. While the ship's lateral responsiveness was increased significantly, vertical and longitudinal responsiveness were worsened slightly, both for unboosted and boosted flight. Despite this, having lateral acceleration comparable to the Saber certainly helps overall. But, in my opinion, the real difference in combat performance with this ship comes from the improvements to rotation rates. In 2.4.1, the Gladius had slightly worse rotation rates than the Super Hornet. In 2.5, rotation rates increased dramatically, particularly in the roll axis, which is incredibly important for light fighters. This, combined with having responsiveness a little more consistent along multiple axes, has improved the handling and feel of the Gladius dramatically, at least in the seemingly universal opinions of those who have tried it. Additionally, durability was added to the wings, making them not fall off after a single hit from a size 1 weapon, which, yes, was happening in 2.4.1. This makes the Gladius, though still fragile, able to actually engage in combat for a short period of time without crumbling immediately. Two issues now face the Gladius. First, it still has a thruster bug that can temporarily cause massive sliding, seemingly without taking any damage to thrusters or hull, at least damage that is reported on the HUD. Some think this is due to the thrusters having low durability, but Bayor and I have experienced this bug in racing, so I believe that it may be related to the power or perhaps thruster management systems. Unfortunately, though I've attempted to find a way to reproduce this bug reliably, so far I haven't been able to. Second, the weapon hardpoint disparities between certain fighters still exist and will continue to dictate the combat viability of ships. The Saber, for instance, sacrifices very little maneuverability for having twice the weaponry score and has better shields and durability to boot. Yes, the Gladius costs less, and yes, it should probably have less weaponry, but probably not half as much weaponry. With shield strength and hull durability the way it is, the hardpoints in the Gladius will simply not be able to do much against normal ships over a reasonable period of time, even with constant fire on target. Here is where I differ from much of the community. I do not agree that the Gladius should have any of its current hardpoints upgraded to size 3. In my opinion, it's a small fighter, it should maneuver like a small fighter, and it should have relatively smaller weapons. If it still isn't viable in combat, its maneuverability should be increased, not its firepower. The reason is that I believe combat variety is important for this game. Not every ship should be flown the same way Sabres and Hornets currently fly in combat. This means making different fighters have different tactics and even different goals. I'll get more into this in just a minute. Anyway, in my opinion, if the Gladius weaponry were increased, I think it should be in the form of being able to replace 2 of the missile racks with size 1 weapon mounts. And size 2 weapons in general should be able to be effective against fighters. By effective, I mean that they shouldn't overheat against a stationary target before that target is dead, like they currently do. So the desire for the Gladius to carry size 3 weapons, in my opinion, is really just caused by the skewed weaponry time to kill dynamic. So correcting those issues will likely alleviate this problem without having to put large weapons on a light fighter just to make it viable. In my previous video, I asserted that the Gladius did not meet the description of an ideal interceptor or escort ship, and that it currently had no place in the universe. The 2.5 version of the Gladius, in my opinion, still does not function well as an escort ship due to its inability to effectively deter targets, but it could eventually perform well as an interceptor, and it does currently have a place in the universe. In other words, right now I believe it to be viable in combat, but most likely not in the way many would like. The Gladius is not a ship that will be apt to rise to the top of the leaderboards in Arena Commander, or hold off a group of outlaws attacking a starfarer in the universe. What it can do well right now, possibly better than any other ship, is harassment. Simply put, unlike the M50, it has barely enough firepower that it cannot be ignored, but it can also zoom in and out of combat at will, perhaps even better than the Saber. In the hands of a capable and incredibly disciplined pilot, the Gladius dictates the terms of the engagement. Obviously there are factors obscuring this, even in this video, like incorrectly functioning ESP and the ability of broadswords to render almost any fighter ineffective with a single volley. But, after flying with it extensively, I believe the Gladius has a niche, one focused on using speed and agility in combat. What pilots need to understand when flying the Gladius is that it cannot be effectively flown in the same manner as a Saber or a Super Hornet. In general, if you are going head-to-head with anyone in a Gladius, you are doing it wrong. Of course, there are exceptions to every rule in space combat, but, for the most part, you are wasting the Gladius's only advantage by not using disengagement as part of your strategy, and you should only fully engage when you have achieved a massive advantage over the target. This takes a lot of discipline and a lot of patience, but it can be rewarding. You are playing a different game though, so if all you care about is racking up points and kills in Arena Commander, you will probably prefer the Saber over the Gladius. That's the Gladius update. In general, CIG has done a good job correcting some of its deficiencies, and I expect to play a lot more with it in 2.5. I'll leave the rest of the match featured here running in case you are interested. As always, feel free to share your opinion in the comments or on the Reddit post, and fly safe.
User left your channel. User left your channel.
Bringing shields to power.
Finally! Oh, there's Dark Star. Nope. Not going head to head with a Hornet. Think I am crazy.
Right, shields next.
Thank you, that's useful.
Yes, Pierre.
Man, I get it. Hey, I know. Really is frustrating. So one of the reasons I kind of took a break too, is why it's so frustrating.
I'm losing now
User
because I
joined
did
your
that,
channel.
but I don't care. I almost spread out to get that one. Nope, nope, nope. Bayor, no. No, I'm not doing it. Stop it. I'm not doing it.
You lost.
Whatever. 4-0, I'm happy with that.